Hello and thank you for joining us. During World War II, the United States dropped an atomic bomb in Nagasaki in Japan. And till today, the plants that are coming out from that environment are still being affected by that atomic bomb. We never know how deep our environment affects our mindset concerning poverty, wealth, and money. My name is Wole Olusola, and you are welcome to Wealth Shift 2.0. In some few minutes, our chief coach, Mr. Wole Olusola, will be here to start our free coaching class organized by Wole Olusola Coaching and powered by Pronoya Resources Limited. I will advise that you get a comfortable place to sit, a glass of water, a journal, and a pen. Why? A pen is always better than the memory. We would love you to please stay connected to Mr. Wole Olusola on social media, on LinkedIn at Wole Olusola, Facebook, Wole Olusola, YouTube, Wole Olusola, and of course, on Instagram at Wole Olusola. We will also appreciate if you can give us feedbacks on this platform so we can know we have done a good job. But we promise you that in this class, you will understand how to change those effects of environment on your mindset concerning money, wealth, and poverty. Thank you for joining us in this class, and I'll see you right after the class.
Thank you, Lolade, for that powerful introduction, and welcome everyone once again to Wealth Shift 2.0. I can assure you that you are going to have an experience of a lifetime today. Now, let me first of all start by introducing myself. My name is Wole Olusola, and I'm a certified life coach and a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. Now, I want to briefly share my story and how I got here. Sometime in the year 2008, I was doing very well in my career. I was an investment banker, and I saw an opportunity to make a good investment in the capital market, and that was exactly what I did. So I had some cash and I took a very big loan. The whole amount I invested was in 8 figures. And so I put everything in the capital market. But unfortunately, not quite up to 5 days after I did that investment, the whole market went south. And I gradually watched as my investments went down and I lost everything. Now, the financial loss I made gradually got me depressed. And one day, without having any plans, I just resigned my job. No savings, nothing. Depression led me into resigning my job. And after I resigned my job, it was as if another phase of my life entirely started. I tasted poverty. You know, things got to a stage whereby from a 7-figure monthly salary, it got to a stage whereby 1,000 naira always looked like a big testimony to me. So from depression, I began to have suicidal emotions. You know, so many times I felt like just ending it all by taking my life. However, I didn't take my life, and one day, my very good friend Wole Olusola offered me a scholarship into coaching. And it was when I went for coaching that I discovered that the problem with me was my mindset. And that's how I was able to start my journey into recovery. Now, this evening, what I've come to teach you here today is not theory. What I've come to teach you here today is not what I've had. It is what I have experienced and how I have been able to come out of it and give myself a new lease of life, living the kind of life I've always wanted to live. Now, why am I doing this? Number one, I'm certified and qualified to do this. Number two, I'm passionate about bringing people out of poverty into wealth. Number three, it's a calling. You know, it's something that comes to me naturally. Coaching people comes to me naturally. Number four, I have testimonials. I have people that have been able to coach and they are living their best lives ever. And number five, I myself have been through it. So I've sat where many of us are sitting right now, and I can assure you that I can take you on that journey into becoming a wealthy person who will totally be in control of his financial affairs. Now, let's start. Now, I want us to know that poverty is not a virtue. there's nothing good about poverty. It's not something to be proud of. And another thing I want us to also know is that poverty is a disease of the mind. When somebody is poor, it simply means that his mind is not functioning well. Because we were given our minds to prosper. We were given our minds to be wealthy. So poverty is an evidence, it's a fruit, it's a result of a malfunctioning mind. You know, a poor mind is simply like a TV that no longer has its audio. We'll say that that kind of TV is malfunctioning. And that's the same thing exactly with poverty. So poverty is a disease of the mind. And today in Wealth Shift 2.0, what we are going to do is that we are going to go to the roots of why many of us have become poor, and we'll start that journey into recovery so that you can become wealthy. Now, very quickly, how do you know you have a poverty mindset? Number one, you are always scared of spending money. Anyone that is always scared of spending money definitely has a poverty mindset because he's not sure that is capable of making more money. Number two way you know you have a poverty mindset, you are never comfortable talking about money. Because every time a discussion about money starts, what is on your mind is, I can't afford this, why are they talking about money? And these were things I used to go through in those days. I never felt comfortable talking about money because it was as if it always exposed me. How do you know you have a poverty mindset? Number three, you are always thinking about the things you cannot afford. You're always thinking about the things you can't do financially. And because every time you think, you release a vibration into the atmosphere, you will never be able to afford those things. And number four reason how you can know you have a poverty mindset, you are always thinking about bills to pay. From morning to night is one bill after the other. Bills, 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 and more bills to pay. How else do you know you have a poverty mindset? You are always thinking about your bank balance. Because every time you see your bank balance, what you see there, it's its emptiness. It's its empty state. But the truth is this, your bank balance has no bearing on whether you are rich or not, because true wealth is from within. So your bank balance is simply a reflection of what is inside. So a poor man is always thinking about his bank balance. How else do you know you have a poverty mindset? You continually look down on your gifts and talents, not knowing that your gifts and your talents are actually the ladder that will take you out of poverty, lack, and want into the kind of financial freedom that you need. How else do you know you have a poverty mindset? You always go through life with a victim mentality, because every time decisions are taken, every time policies are taken, you think that they are taken to victimize you. You never see any good out of things that are being done. So a poor mindset always has a victim's mentality. Finally, how do you know you have a poverty mindset? You are always procrastinating because you believe that you need money to get things done. Now, someone has defined being poor as passing over opportunities repeatedly. So someone who has a poverty mindset is continually procrastinating. And the truth is this, every opportunity you procrastinate about is an opportunity that someone else will see and make the most out of it. Now, if you have all these symptoms of a poverty mindset, I can assure you that you are in the right place tonight. And we are going to go to the root of that poverty mindset. We are going to deal with it, and then you are going to start your journey into wealth. Wealth that is sustainable, wealth that is going to become generational. Now, something I want to say is this. If you see a lot of people who go into public office and they steal money, it's an evidence of a poverty mindset. That's why you find out that many of them, when they leave that position where they can't steal again, they eventually lose everything. So you must beware of a poverty mindset. It does no good to anyone, and it can actually destroy. Now, important fact I want you to know. If you are not honest about where you are right now, you will never get to where you are going. You can deceive everybody. You can pretend before everybody, but you can't deceive yourself. So you must be honest about where you are. Don't say you are wealthy when you are not. Admit exactly where you are so that we can take that journey forward together. And I know that what is going to happen to you today will keep speaking in your life forever, because you will label today as the day you started your journey into wealth. Now, there was a young boy. That young boy was the first person to go to the university in his village. Now, after he graduated from university, he got a job in Lagos. So before he resumed on his job, his father took him to the native doctor in their village. And when his father took him to that native doctor, his father told the native doctor to check and find out if the boy was going to prosper in life, to look into his future. So the native doctor told the young boy to sit down. And that native doctor drew 5 holes. He dug 5 small holes in the ground. Now, inside each of those 5 holes, the native doctor poured some honey, and he now gave the boy some instructions. He poured some honey into the 5 holes, painted 4 of the holes black, and painted 1 of the holes white. Then he put an ant in the middle of all the holes, and he told that boy, I will release this ant to start working. If this ant enters the white hole, that means you are going to prosper. If this ant enters any of the black holes, that means you are not going to prosper. 1 white hole, 4 black holes. He now asked the boy that, do you understand what I said? The boy said, understood. So the ant started walking. The ant was moving towards the white hole. As the ant was about to enter the white hole, the ant changed direction and started going towards 1 of the black holes. Shortly before the ant entered the black hole, the boy got up, took the ant in his hands, and dropped it in the white hole. The witch doctor screamed. The native doctor screamed, why did you do that? The boy said, I will not sit down and watch my destiny go awry. So that boy decided to take his destiny in his hands. He took the ant and dropped it into the white hole. So you see, you have to face poverty headlong. You have to be deliberate. You have to be intentional. You have to also take your destiny in your hands and don't be a victim of circumstances and everything that is happening. Now, remember I told you during the last webinar, if you came for Wealth Shift 1.0, that for every one of us, there is the true self, and then there's your fake self. There is your original self, and then your false self. Now, there is you that was born the way you were born. And there's another you, the kind of person you learned to become, the kind of person your environment, your experiences made you become. Now, on one side, there is your limitless mind, and then there is the conditioned mind. The limitless mind is the you that was born powerful, while the conditioned mind is your mind that has been conditioned by your past experiences, your past failures, and everything you have ever been through in this world. So what we are here to do today is to bring you to the position where your limitless mind is the mind that begins to control and direct your life, especially in the area of being wealthy. Now, John B. Watson was a psychologist in the early 20th century. So John B. Watson decided to do an experiment. They wanted to find out if it was possible to condition a human being. So they got a 9-month-old baby named Albert. So they exposed Albert to a white rabbit, a white mouse, and so many things. Every time Albert saw the white mouse and the white rabbit, Albert would just smile. He will just smile at the white rabbit, at the white rat, or whatever they showed him. Now, they now decided to take the experiment to the next level. So every time a white rat came, they will hit a bell that will make a tremendous noise. And the baby became scared because you know why? Every one of us is born with two kinds of fears. We are born with the fear of falling and the fear of noises. But every other kind of fear is something we learned in this world. So every time the white rats came, they will hit that bell and the child will start crying because children are afraid of noises. So over time, the child learns to equate the coming of the white rats with that noise. But after some time, anytime the rats came, they stopped making the noise. But the child had been conditioned. And that's exactly what has happened to us. A lot of the things that we have gone through in our environment, our past experiences, our past failures, the things that we have had, they have conditioned us. So that's why we are conditioned to think in a certain way in our environment. Now, so if you are going to begin the journey into being wealthy, the first place to start is your environment. The first place to start is the environment because that's where we are programmed. That's where we are scripted to think in a certain way. And being wealthy is all about thinking in a certain way. It's all about being conditioned to think in a certain way. Now, there are two kinds of environments. There are two kinds of environment. Now, the first environment is the external environment, while the second environment is our internal environment. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all talk about the external environment. Now, our external environment is made up of people, places, and our experiences. This is our external environment. Our external environment is made up of people, places, and our past experiences. Now, when we talk about people, we are talking about the people in our environment. We are talking about our parents, our religious leaders, our teachers, our bosses, our friends, our colleagues. All these are the people that make up our environment. Now, when we talk about places, we are talking about the places we frequently go to. Our places of worship, our homes, our offices, our eateries, everywhere we go to is the places. Then when we talk about experiences, we are talking about our past, the books we have read, the movies we have watched, the music we listen to. So all these things are environments. And why do we need to talk about this external environment? Because every environment you meet people, and everyone you meet in your environment, they think in a certain way. So if you are in an environment where they think poverty is a virtue, that's how you are going to end up thinking. Because over time, the people in your environment will end up scripting you. They will end up programming you to think in a certain way. So everyone in your environment has a certain way they think about money. Everyone in your environment has a certain way they think about wealth. If they think that money is mystical and you keep hanging around these people, you'll also be programmed to think in the same way, because everyone, every day, everywhere you go, you are being scripted to think in a certain way. So you know what's happening in every environment we find ourselves is this: information is being passed about per second, per minute. Information that will eventually program you to think in a certain way. So you must take your environment seriously, because how seriously you take your environment is going to determine how you think. And then how you think will determine your results and your outcomes in life. Now, how do you learn in your external environment? How do you learn? How is information passed across to you? Now, We learn in our environment with our five senses. The things we see, the things we hear, the things we touch, the things we smell, and the things we taste are the ways we learn in our external environment. So we relate with our external environment based on our five senses. We learn from our external environment based on our five senses. We are programmed, we are scripted to think in a certain way in our external environment based on our five senses. Now, your external environment will determine the limits of your prosperity. Your external environment will determine the limits of your wealth. That's why you must be very careful about your external environment, because every information, like I said earlier, everything you are exposed to is scripting you, is programming you to think in a certain way, because every information you get is a programming language. It's an algorithm. It's a set of codes that will program you to start thinking in a certain way. Now, whatever happens in your external environment will eventually affect your internal environment. Now, your internal environment is where your mind is. So when you take in information from the external environment that Nigeria is a difficult place, you internalize that. It goes into your mind as a program, and then your mind begins to produce the same results in your life. Because the mind is our minds are like a womb where things are created. So if you've taken in the wrong information from the external into the internal environment, you find out that you begin to produce the same results in your life. So everything that has happened in your life becomes a script. Then that script goes into your internal environment. You internalize it, then it begins to control our lives. But I know that as you are being coached right now, something is happening to you not to continue to think the way you've been thinking. Now, the truth is this, if you keep thinking the way you've always thought, you keep getting the same results. So if you want your results to change, if you want to move from poverty into wealth, then you must learn to stop how you've been thinking and start thinking differently. Now, you see what's happening in your environment is that you are being scripted. You are being programmed to think in a certain way without your knowledge. Because if you keep talking to poor people, if you keep taking advice from poor people are poor because they think in a certain way. So if you keep frolicking with people like that in your environment, it's a matter of time you start to think like them. However, you can change the script, you can change the programming, and that's what we are going to look into next. How to change the script, how to change the program that has been affecting you. Now, when you look at your internal environment, how do you learn in your internal environment? You learn by perception. How else do you learn? You learn by your willpower. You learn by your memory, your intuition, and your imagination. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you learn based on your five senses, when you allow your life to be directed by your five senses, you are simply operating at the lowest level of your potential, learning with your five senses. That means that if you learn at the lowest level of your potentials, you'll only produce poor results. However, when your life is programmed, when your life is directed based on what you are producing from your mind, that is your highest level of potential, because this is where everything in life happens. It happens in your internal environment. So that's why you need to be deliberate. You need to be intentional about the information you are taking into your internal environment so that your life can change, because it's in your internal environment that wealth is created. Now, be very careful about your external environment, Be very careful about the people you learn from. Be very careful about the places you learn. Be very careful about the books you read. Be very careful about the music you listen to. Be very careful about the movies you watch. You must be deliberate and intentional if you don't want your life to keep going the way it has been going. That was what was happening to me before. When I lost my money and I became depressed, I stopped moving with the right people. I started moving with artisans and lots of people like that. And you know, those people have been programmed to think in a certain way of poverty because I lost my confidence. So I couldn't move with my friends again. But when I decided to change, when I was given that opportunity to be coached, my environment changed and I started moving with people who thought the same way I thought. I started moving with people who were going in the direction I wanted to go. Now, let me tell you a short story. There was a young boy, and that young boy had a goldfish. That goldfish was in a bowl, but it was a small bowl. So every day, the goldfish was fed in that bowl. It swam round and round in that bowl every day. So the young boy felt that he wasn't being kind to the goldfish. And then he decided to put the goldfish in a bigger aquarium. So he brought out the goldfish from that small bowl and put the goldfish in an aquarium that was 20 times bigger. But guess what happened? Immediately the goldfish was put in that big aquarium. The boy noticed that the goldfish still kept swimming in a small confined space. You know what had happened to that goldfish? By being in a small bowl, it had conditioned itself to believe that life was small. It had conditioned to believe that its environment was small. So even when it was put in a bigger place, the same mindset of smallness kept on affecting it. So you need to change your environment. You need to change from thinking small to a proper environment where your thinking can be enhanced so that you can live the kind of life you want to live. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something very funny. You know, a lot of us always console ourselves with the good old days. But the truth is this, that cliche, the good old days, is simply the consolation of mediocres. Because when you operate from the higher level of your potential, you'll find out that what is in front of you is much, much better than whatever you have had behind you. Now, you cannot afford to keep making your past as your reference point because there's always a place called forward. What is in front of you is much better than whatever you have experienced in the past. Because you see, the future is a canvas where you can paint by walking and thinking from the highest level of your potential. Now, there was a young lady who used to hawk bread in Lagos. I'm sure we all know her very well. And one day, a popular photographer saw her. She saw the young girl. She saw her posture and then took a picture of her. You know, the way she balanced the bread on the tray on her head. So she took that picture, and overnight that lady became very popular. She started moving with the high and mighty. She started moving with the wealthy. So overnight, she was brought from an environment of poverty into an environment of wealthy people where she learned how to think in a certain way. She moved to a new location. She moved to a new house. She had new friends, and everything totally changed about her, and she learned to think in a certain way. And by moving into that new environment, her programming, the way she had been scripted, changed permanently. She never ever wanted to go back into poverty. So one of the first steps you need to take in your way, your journey into becoming wealthy, is to move from that external environment of poverty and move to a better environment where people can challenge you to think in a certain way in the direction that you want to go. Now, you need to reshape your environment. You need to reconstruct your environment. You need an environment that matches the future you want to create. If your present environment doesn't match that future, then you need to move away from that environment. So you need to move to an environment that matches the kind of future that you want to create. Now, you need an environment that does not only resonate with your values and your vision, but an environment that also propels your values and your vision. So you need an environment that encourages your values and your vision, an environment that makes you see physically what you are seeing inside. You need that change of environment. Now, the question is this: how do I reshape my environment? How do I reshape my environment? I no longer want to be poor. I want to be free from poverty. I want to live a life that I can control. I want to live a life where I'm in control of my outcomes. I want to live a life where I'm going to be wealthy. So how do I reshape my environment? Now, to reshape your environment, you must question every environment you find yourself in. You must question the people you meet. You must question the places you go. You must question your past experiences. Remember that we said that there are three things that form your external environment: the people you know and you move with, the places you go to, and your past experience. So you must begin to ask yourself questions. You must begin to ask yourself, are there wealthy people in my environment? Are there wealthy people in my environment? What kind of people are in my environment? Are there wealthy people in my environment? That's where you start from. Number two, you must ask yourself, how do the people in my environment think about money? Do they think in a certain way that will make them poor, or do they think in a certain way that will make them wealthy? So you need to ask yourself all these questions. Then you also need to ask yourself, the people in my environment, how has their thinking affected my ability to be wealthy? How has their thinking affected my ability to be wealthy? You know why? Because if you work with wise people, you are going to be wise. And if you work with foolish people, you are going to end up being foolish. So you must ask yourself, how has the thinking of the people in my environment affected my ability to get wealthy, or helped me in being poor? So you need to ask yourself that question. Now, you also need to ask yourself, am I being affected positively or negatively by the people in my environment? In my desire to be wealthy, am I being helped or being stopped by the people in my environment? Then you also need to ask yourself this soul-searching question: do I want to end up like the people in my environment? So I'm asking you now, do you want to end up like the people in your environment? If the people in your environment are poor, do you want to end up like them? If the people in your environment are already wealthy, they represent the kind of life you want, do you want to end up like them? Now, the truth is this: your answers to these questions will force you to make a decision. And the decision you make will determine whether you are ready or not for a wealth shift. So you are the only one that can answer these questions. So the answers you get will force you to make a decision. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know, you cannot escape from a prison if you don't know you are in one. So an environment that makes you poor is a prison. So until you realize that that environment is a prison, you will never escape. So new decisions, new people to meet if you want to be wealthy. So you need to get free from that environment that stops you. You need to get free from that environment that makes you financially impotent. You need to get free and move to another environment that propels your values and your visions so that you can become the kind of person you were created to be. Now, very important for you to understand that your results are telling the truth about you. Your outcomes are telling the truth about you. They are not lying. So whatever results you see, Whatever outcomes you see in your life, the truth is that's the kind of person you are. So your results don't lie. Your outcomes don't lie. The consequences in your life don't lie. So if you are poor, the truth is this, your mind is poor. It's not functioning well. And the truth is also that if you are wealthy, it means that your mind is also wealthy. That's where the journey starts from. So I believe that based on everything that you have learned today, based on everything that you have been coached about today, you'll be able to take that step, take that decision about your environment, and your life is going to change. I made that decision after I left coaching school. I made that decision after I finished and became certified as a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. And I'm an evidence of that today. I was able to destroy my poverty mindset and move towards a mindset of wealth. I was able to transit from a limiting life to a life of total freedom. So because now, changing your environment puts you in control of your life and you are no longer going to be a victim. I know that you are going to have a testimonial that this day will be the day that your life started changing. I look forward to your testimonials from this coaching session. And you know, I'm available and I'm very much interested in your success. So I'll see you on the other side. Thank you for listening to me, and you are going to be successful.
Wow, how was the class? I'm sure you were blown away. Thank you again for staying this long, and we know that indeed the application of these principles you have learned today will change your life forever. Okay, so at this point I want to remind you, you can stay connected to Mr. Wole Olusola on Facebook, Wole Olusola, on LinkedIn, Wole Olusola, on YouTube. You can subscribe to his page, Wole Olusola, and you can also follow him on Instagram at Wole Olusola. Thank you again. If you have any questions, please drop your questions below. He's available to answer all your questions. We'll try as much as possible before this class rolls away to answer all your questions. Also, you know what just happened? Mr. Wole just taught you chapter 2 of this book called The Shift. This Shift is a book that talks about the practical steps on how you can change your thinking to achieve your desired results in every area of your life. This book is a simple book that can be easily applied to any area of your life. What we've done today is that we have applied it to wealth. So you can apply it to any area of your life, and it goes for just 5,000 naira. 5,000 naira, just like $10, 5,000 naira. 3 simple ways you can order this book. You can call the number showing on your screen, glory on that number to order the book, or you can go to our website, www.woleolusola.com/resources, also being displayed on the screen, or you can send us a mail at info@woleolusola.com. 5,000 naira to change your life forever. Thank you again for tuning in. Do not forget to share your experience with us on the social media pages, as I've said before. Thank you, and we hope to see you at Wealth Shift 3.0. Bye!